Hi there! So I made some improvements to my GPT-AutoPilot AI agent project. The most exciting of which is that now there is a portable standalone package that you can download. So if you're unfortunate enough to run Windows as your operating system, you can now download the zip file, extract it, and just run the GPT-AutoPilot executable. And that's all you have to do. You don't need a Python interpreter, you don't need any dependencies, you just run it and it will ask you for your API key, you paste it in there and you just prompt away and you create something magnificent. So let's now take a look at what we can actually build with GPT-AutoPilot. So let's start with a simple example. So let's run this and it will ask me what do I want to do. So I'll say create a Raylib bouncing ball animation. And then I will also say and build it and run it. Now it will ask me, do you want me to make your prompt better? And this is another improvement that I made. So if you say yes, then it will take your original prompt and it will add to it more detail. But in this case, this is all the detail that I want, so I will say no. And then it starts running these functions. So we are creating a directory called source and we are writing to bouncing_ball.c. And I also added this token counter, so we can actually see in real time how much this is costing us. And apparently we are making a make file as well. And then it wants to run this command. So it wants to run make. So let's run make. Now we got an error, but the error will be passed to ChatGPT, so then it can fix the problem. Hopefully. So let's run this again. We want to make it again after we replaced some text in the code. And now it says, I want to run the following command asynchronously. So this is another thing that I added. So it doesn't actually have to wait for this command to run. It will just run it in the background, or actually in the foreground, but it will not have to wait for it to end. So let's run this arbitrary code that ChatGPT wrote. And look at this. We have a bouncing ball animation on the screen and it's in an actual window. And it works. So that's great. Now let's do something else. Now here you can see this summary of the tokens that we used. So we can see how many tokens we used and how much it cost. So this animation cost us 46 cents with the GPT-4 API. And now it actually passed the result from that command to ChatGPT, even though we ran it in the background. Because I made it so that it will run it and then it will wait for 4 seconds and then it will check what the output was. So in case there was an error in the running of the program, then it will get it and then it can improve its own program. But now, since I can iterate over this, let's ask something else. Let's say, make it so that when I click, a new ball appears with a random color. And I forgot I have to say yes first and then I have to put my prompt. And we are running again some functions. So we are rewriting the bouncing_ball.c. Now, sometimes it starts to replace text because that's another function that I added and it doesn't always work that great. So rerunning the script helps in those situations. But I also created another feature, which I will show you next, that helps the problem that it doesn't always create the desired output. So now we have written the new version and we want to make this again. So let's say yes, and we got in fact an error. So let's see if it will fix its error. So now it's replaced some text in the code and then it wants to make it again. So let's run it. And we still have an error. Now for some reason, every time I make a video, it doesn't work first try. And we did another replace, so let's run it. And now it actually seems like it worked. So now we can actually run the program. So let's say yes, and we have an empty window. But if I click, then it will actually create some balls here, which are moving in a random direction and they have a random color. So it did exactly what I wanted it to do. So that's amazing. Now let's see another example. So I'll say no, I don't want to do anything else, and it will exit. Now it cost us $1.24 to build that. Now you can make it cheaper with GPT 3.5, but it's not as capable. But now let's check another new feature that I added. So let's run this again and we can pass in a command line flag. So we can say versions and we can pass in a number of versions we want to create. So if I say 3, then it will create 3 different versions from the prompt we give it. So it first says that there's something in the code folder already, because it always writes in the code folder. So I will say delete, and we will delete our bouncing ball animation from there. And then we will do this. Create an inventory application in vanilla JavaScript that works in the browser. And here I will say, yes, make this prompt better, because this is not a very detailed prompt. So then what it will do is it will say, here, this is a better prompt. Design a browser-based inventory management system exclusively utilizing vanilla JavaScript. The application should offer functionalities such as adding or removing products, tracking quantities, and categorizing items. It must also include search and sort features for better inventory management. Moreover, the software should display real-time updates and go well with all standard browsers. Although this is a starter project, anticipate possible expansions like database integration in future iterations. Now, this prompt is a bit too complicated probably, but let's see. I want to use this prompt, so let's see what it will come up with. And now the idea behind this versions thing is that it doesn't always produce a good outcome every time. But if you run it multiple times, then one of them will be good. So after it runs and makes these 3 versions, then we can check which version is the best, and then we can select which version we want to iterate over. So let's let it build these 3 versions, and then I will come back. Alright, now all the 3 versions have been created, and it will show me that we can find them in these folders. So if we go here in the GPT-AutoPilot folder, there is a versions folder which has lots of versions because I've been testing this out. It will increment this number every time. So we are going to have the 127, and we have 3 different versions here. So let's see the first version if it actually works. Now, it probably won't work because we have only index.html. No, sorry, did we have, we have JS separately. Okay, so let's open this in the browser and look at this. We have some products here already. ID, name, category, quantity. All right. Now, can I add something in here? If I say test and category is this and quantity is that and add product. It was actually added here. And what if I refresh? It disappears. So I think our prompt didn't talk about local storage, so it will not save it anywhere. So let's check our second example. So let's go here and version 2 and index.html. Okay, we have here something again. So let's put something here and add it, and it was added. And if I refresh, it disappears. Now let's see if the search actually works. So if I add test and I add something and hello, and if I say something, yes, it's actually filtering these out. So if I say test, it shows test, and if I say something, it says something. Okay, let's see our third version. And here we have a little bit better looking version. So let's say apples and 25 and select a category, but we don't have a category here. Okay, well, we added it here. Let's see if we refresh, it disappears. But now since I like this version the best, then I will go back here and I'll say I want to use version 3. And then it will ask me for another prompt. So let me say this. 1. Add sample categories to the category dropdown. And 2. Make it store the products in local storage. And let's do that. Now this will again make 3 versions of this. Now I realized after I made this that I should probably make it so that it will create one version, and then I can either tell it to create another version or to use that version. And then when I have created many versions, then I could select which one I want to use. Because now if the first version already works, then it's meaningless to create more versions and it will just cost more money. So perhaps I will do that in the future. And of course I will say, no, I don't want to make this prompt better. And I will come back to you as soon as these are done. And maybe after it stops raining, if it's getting very loud. Alright, we have created new versions and these go inside a new folder. So let's go back here and go to 128 and version 1 and let's open this. And do we have categories? Yes, we have electronics, groceries, clothing, and books. So let's add a book. And let's add 34 of these and put it in the books. So, okay, what happened there? We added a book, but we also added undefined. Now, what might have happened here is that I might have had already in my local storage in the same key something, because I've been testing this out and it always uses the same key, but I might not have the name set in the same key. So let's delete these and let's refresh, and it doesn't work. Okay, so let's go back to number 2. And again, we have something here. So let's do test and 5 and clothing and add item. Okay, now we have a book and test. Okay, so it is remembering something. Okay, the problem is that it is only loading the local storage after we click add item. So it works, but not perfectly. Let's see number 3. There is nothing here. No, actually it's loading something. Okay, this does not work at all. This is terrible. So let's start with number 1. So number 1 is good, and let's do one more iteration. The products are shown only after I click add product. Please make them show up right away. And we don't want to make this prompt better, and let's see what it creates. Okay, that was very fast. It did something. So let us go to 129 and version 1 and open this, and we have a book here. So now it's actually loading it. So if we add something else here to electronics, it will be added, and if we add something more and we put it into groceries, then it will be added here, and if I refresh, they are still there. So that's great. So it does work. Now I have made a better version of the inventory management system with this, but of course when I make a video it doesn't want to create it as beautiful as before. I'll try this one more time with my own prompt. So I will go back here and I quit, and I will start over. Okay, I have created my own prompt, and I will do this, and I will not make this better, and let's see what it comes up with. Okay, the first version is ready, so let us take a look at that right now. And I hope that the rain is not bothering you too much. So let's open this, and it sucks. So let's wait for version 2. And version 2 is ready, so let's take a look, and hopefully this one is better. Okay, we have everything we wanted, so I guess we can add something here, and we can add it, and we can refresh, and it stays there, and we can search for SDF, and it will filter it out. But there's just no CSS. So we could add in the next iteration some CSS to this. But let's see version 3. We are actually writing some CSS, so hopefully this will look good now. I forgot to add that in my prompt. Alright, version 3 is ready. Hopefully this works. Let's open it, and look at this. Now this is more like it. It's not perfect, but it is better. So I'm kind of worried that we don't have the local storage because we don't see the old products here. Because usually it uses the same key for the local storage, but we have this product here now, but if we refresh, it's still there. Okay, so it works. So now we can add these things in here, and it works, and we can search, and it works. So we can search too. So if we do one more iteration on this, then hopefully it will look really good. So what could we, sorry, I pressed number 1, I should have pressed number 3. But whatever, I will say add CSS styling to the application to make it look professional. And let's see what will happen. Alright, the first version is done, so let's take a look. It is here, and open it, and okay, it added some CSS, but it is not very stylish, I have to say. Let's take a look at version 2. Okay, that's more like it. It kind of looks like the third version that we did last time. The search bar is in the wrong place, but otherwise it looks pretty good. Now we have undefined here, probably because it comes from some other version, because there's already something in the local storage. So if we actually add something here, then it works. But we don't have the table headers here, and that is probably because it is replacing the table when it loads the stuff from local storage. This has happened before. So it is not perfect by any means, but it can do some cool stuff. Now that looks already kind of nice. Anyway, let's move on to the next example. So I will quit from this and let's do this. Now this program works best if you describe very well what you want. Like if you describe the technical details, then it works better. If you give it a vague prompt, then it doesn't really do it properly. And one example is this. If I say that create a browser-based Markdown editor with a live view, it will try to do this, but it will not actually work, as you can see in a moment. So if I now open this 28-cent Markdown editor, it is in the code folder because this is not a versioned example. So we have here on the left some code and we have here the live view of the Markdown. So if we write here hello, then it actually works this time. So sometimes it doesn't work. So we can do here bold text and it will automatically do everything. Some H2 and it actually works. Now previously when I was testing it didn't work, but then if I told it to use the Showdown.js Markdown converter, then it worked. So let's actually see what it... Okay, this time it used Showdown. So it happened to use the version that it knows how to use. But sometimes it uses another library and then it doesn't work. But if you tell it to use Showdown, then it works right away. Okay, next example. Since ChatGPT knows some cool open APIs, we can do something like this. Let's run this again and we will delete the old files and I will say create a website that shows a random joke every time you go there. And we don't want to make this prompt better and we will just do it. Now I did this in a previous video, but what I told it to actually do is to write 5 random jokes and put them in a file and then show one of those random jokes every time. But later on I tried it with just this prompt and look at what it does. So if we now go to the code folder and we go to website and we open index.html, we are in the random joke generator. And if I click generate joke, it will say what is the difference between ignorance and apathy? I don't know and I don't care. And if we click generate joke, and it will generate why did the cookie cry? Because his mother was away for so long. Now how it does this is it in fact uses an API. So if I go here to the sources and the script.js, then here we have, it is fetching it from officialjokeapi.appspot.com/jokes/random. Now I didn't know that this exists, but ChatGPT knows, so it just uses this open API. Now again we can make it look prettier, make it look prettier with CSS. And if we open, actually it's the same file, so we just refresh, and now it looks a bit better. So generate a joke. Why are graveyards so noisy? Because of all the coughing. What did the fish say when it swam into a wall? Damn. Okay, let's move on to the next example. Now this one was pretty cool for me. Now I've been learning Python recently, and actually this is created in Python, but I haven't really built much in Python. So I wondered if I can make a graphical user interface with Python, and apparently you can. So if I do something like this, I delete the old files and I will say create a Python GUI application that has a countdown timer from 1 minute to 0. And I do this and I don't want to make it better, and let's see what it makes. And it actually wants to run it, so let's again run arbitrary code from ChatGPT and look at this. We have a little box here, start countdown. So if I click here, it doesn't work. So let's quit. Quitting doesn't work. Uh-oh, it got stuck. This is not good. All right, after a while it crashed. And then we got this error and we sent it to ChatGPT and it answered, it seems the application has been destroyed unexpectedly. Shall I adjust the program to prevent this error? Yes, please. And let's run this again and see if it works now. So we have our countdown timer here and we click start countdown and it still got stuck. So that's not good. Okay, we got some logs actually. So it was logging something. Now, I'm not quite sure if this was because we ran it inside of the application and it wasn't asynchronous. So let's change the code and Python GUI app, and let's try to run this manually. And let's press the button of death again. Okay, so it's counting in the terminal. It's not counting in the GUI. Okay, so let's tell it to fix it. I want to count in the GUI, not the terminal. And if we run this now and start countdown, it still doesn't work this way. So let's see over here if this works. Start countdown, and it does not work. Now I have two. No, here's the new one. No, these are both. They are both stuck now, so not a very good job from ChatGPT. So I will close this and I will try to do this again. So I will pass in the prompt here in the actual command line arguments. Create a Python GUI application that shows a countdown timer starting from 1 minute. And I will say not better to not make it better. And I should have said delete as well. Delete. And let's see what happens. And it did something. It didn't ask me to run it. So let me run it. I have to go back to Python GUI app and Python 3 main.py. And look at this. Now we actually have seconds running here. So it did something. Now that is pretty cool actually. So you could use this for something like putting a timer on the screen. Maybe you could make this like always on top, and then you could have a timer here, and then I can code something and see how fast I can code it. Or maybe I have 30 minutes to code something or something like this. Anyway, you can be creative with this. Now let's end this video with something more complex that I haven't actually tried if it can do yet. And I have actually never built this myself, but I will say create a real-time chat application that works in the browser and uses WebSocket. When you go to the app, it should ask for your name and a room name. When you put in your room name, it should connect you with other people in that room and you can chat to each other. And I will also add, so that I can actually run this, create a README file that explains how to use it. And let's do this and see if it can do something a bit more complex like this. Now, apparently we are using Node.js, which I'm not very familiar with. But since I told it to create the README file, then I think I can figure this out. Alright, we have generated a chat application with 72 cents. Let's see what we get for a 72-cent real-time chat application. So I will have to create a new terminal here and change the code. And let's actually code the README, which I don't have here. It is just lowercase README. And what do we have in here? This is a simple real-time chat application that works in the browser and uses WebSockets. Okay, just go to the app and it will ask you for your name and room. Okay, that's fine. Server. To start the server, navigate to chat app directory and run node server.js. Let's do this. I think I have Node installed. So chat app and run node server.js. And something went wrong. Cannot find module express. Okay, well, I in fact know how to fix this, so I can just run npm install maybe. No, because we don't have a package.json. Okay, so let's do this. Error cannot find module express. So let's tell ChatGPT that we couldn't find this module, and hopefully it will create a package.json and run all those modules. Okay, so it will actually say, you need to run npm init y. So let's run this command. So this actually creates the package.json. Okay, I did not know that. And then we have to say npm install express http socket io. Okay, yes, let's do that. And it's done. So let's try this again. Let's run npm, so node server.js. And we are running on port 3000. So I guess now if we go to localhost 3000, there should be something there. And look at this. Enter your name, enter a room name, join room. So let's put here unconf and let's put here room, the room, and join room. User unconf has joined the room. Hello everyone. Send. Okay, we got some ID here. Hello everyone. And what if I open this in Firefox? And I say someone and the room, join room. And I say howdy, send. Did I get it here too? I did get it here too, so it actually works. So now we have a chat application. Now I didn't load the old messages, but it works. Yo, send, and here we got yo. So it works. We have a chat application, but this is a bit weird that it says some ID of the person, not the actual name. But we could probably fix that. So I'll stop this server and I will say the message list shows just an ID, not the name of the person. Please show the name and add some CSS styling to the messages so that they have a different color and some border radius. Okay, let's go back here and run our server again, and let's refresh this page, and let's put some name here and the room and join room, undefined. Hello. Okay, now it actually shows the name, but for some reason there's undefined. So if I refresh this and it remembers this. That's cool. Okay, so the first one will be undefined. Okay. Yo. Okay, so it kind of works. And there is some border radius, and it doesn't have different color for different people, but it has different color than the background for the messages. So yeah, it actually works surprisingly well. So if you want to try this yourself, you can just go to my GitHub repository, which is here, unconf/GPT-AutoPilot, and you can go to the releases, and you can download here if you're on Windows. Well, I have the portable package for Ubuntu as well, but if you use Ubuntu, you probably have Python installed already, so you just clone the repository and then run it. But you can download this too and then just run from the terminal the executable that is in here. But on Windows, you just unzip it and you just double click the executable and it just opens a terminal for you. So that's pretty cool. Now, this version doesn't have yet all these features that I showed here, but I will publish them shortly. And you can always go to my develop branch, which has these changes already. So if you pull this one, then you have all the recent changes. And of course, you need an API key from OpenAI. So you just register at platform.openai.com, and then you should see the API keys over here, and you can create a new API key, and then you have to paste it into the prompt that it gives. So the first time you run this, it will ask you what's your API key, and then it can save it in the configuration file. Now, I believe that OpenAI gives you some free tokens already when you register, but you can't use GPT-4 with that. You have to specifically ask them to enable it for you. But like I said, it kind of works with GPT 3.5 as well. So like if I go to my config and I switch to the GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K 0613. And you can also change to the just Turbo one, but that's kind of, it doesn't have enough context history to do all kinds of things, but the 16K is pretty good. So if I change it to 3.5 and I say no and I run this again, it will say I have some files in there, so I'll delete them. Or should I actually, should I keep them if I want to post them somewhere? So I will rename this to chat app. And let's run this again, and now it says that GPT-4 is recommended, but you can still use it. So if I say create a bouncing ball animation in JavaScript for the browser, then it will create something, an index.html, and as you can see, this is a lot cheaper. So right now we're only at 2 cents currently. So GPT 3.5 often does this, so it will give a partial response, and when this detects that, then it will redact some of the old messages, because this usually happens when it starts to run out of the context window. It starts to stop short with the messages. But for 7 cents, we have created a bouncing ball animation. So if I go to code and src and index, then here we have a bouncing ball animation in JavaScript. So GPT 3.5 works just fine, but it doesn't work that well with those more complex projects. But anyway, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me a like and a comment and subscribe to my channel if you want more videos like this in the future. And also give me a star on GitHub if you like this project. And consider buying me a coffee with the link down here, because I had to use lots of tokens. As you can see, I'm already at $174 for the GPT-4 API because I've been testing this so much. So I need some money. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.